Having looked earlier at the background of linguistics and what it does, we're now more or less in a position to start looking at the English language itself, but before that we need to get our bearings. In embarking on any journey, it's important to decide where you are, where you're going to go, and what it is that you're likely to come up against. And in this case what we're going to be looking at is a single human language, English, but it's nice to have a look at the properties of languages in general before we do that, because we'll find that at many steps of the way, to carry on the metaphor, the properties of human language are manifested in the English language. So let's start by looking at the properties of human language, and here we're looking at the textbook Kuiper and Allan at chapter 1 in particular, and in this movie chapter 1.1 to 1.3. All languages are essentially codes, as we've seen earlier. They are ways of connecting sound to meaning. The point of having a code at all is to convey meaning from one party to another, and in these little pictures you can sort of get an impression of that. When someone is speaking on the telephone, and this is obviously in the top right hand corner a pay phone, which is a pity really, it'd be nice if we didn't have to pay, the person is making a lot of noise and they're making it into one end of the telephone. When that happens, the sounds that are produced from the person's mouth disappear into the telephone as a set of electrical signals, and that set of signals is then pushed down the telephone wires, which are in the middle of our picture, and at the other end you'll see that there's someone else down the bottom, Mr. X, who is somewhere. He's talking to Miss Y, who, she's probably in Singapore actually, looking at where she is on the map. The two of them are talking, and the electrical signals are moving across the wires. Nowadays it's glass cable, but that doesn't really matter. And she has her telephone attached to her ear so that she can actually hear the sounds that are coming out of the telephone. Well, there's clearly a code involved here. There's sound being transmitted over a wire, the sound arrives at the other end, and it's decoded. So the process of creating these signals goes through from someone wants to say something, they say it by making sounds, and the sounds go down the wire in an electrical form, and they come out again at the other end, are converted into sound, and are then decoded by the person at the other end who hears the sounds. Well, the code, of course, is not in the middle. The code is in the heads of the two parties involved. So human language is at rock bottom a kind of code. All codes have symbols. I'll talk in the next section in a little more detail about these symbols, trying to unpack a little bit about what it is that makes a symbol a symbol. But a symbol is essentially a way of connecting a form to a meaning. If you think of the flags on old sailing ships, those flags conveyed a meaning. Each flag had a particular meaning. So, for example, when the mutineers on the Bounty were being hanged at the Spithead in Britain, there was a yellow flag. Yellow flags indicated in the Navy that there was a hanging going to happen. Well, everybody knew what a yellow flag was. Not everybody knew that it meant a hanging. You had to be in the know. Somewhere in your head there had to be the code that yellow flag equals naval hanging. And of course there are a lot of other flags indicating other things. In the case of Morse code, a certain sequence of dots and dashes is equivalent to a letter. So there is a form on the one hand and a meaning on the other. But a code by itself, which is just single symbols, isn't nearly as useful as a code which has a syntax. So the order in which flags fly on a mast in the Navy has a significance. The order in which bugle tunes were played, as my colleague Alison Ray points out, the order in which those bugle calls were made has a syntax. Certain kinds of sequences are meaningful and other kinds of sequences are not used. So a code generally has a syntax as well, and those form up into a kind of symbol, which a system of symbols which is the code as a whole. Well, let's have a look at an elementary code, in this case traffic lights. There they are, right in the middle of the screen, and I think they're kind of American because they have little screens over the top of each one. Anyway, we're all quite familiar with this, so it will take some unpacking because we are familiar with it, and it's exactly the same with human language, as we'll find later. We're perfectly familiar with it, but we don't necessarily know how to unpack it. So what happens with traffic lights? Well, it's fairly obvious. We've got a red traffic light and a yellow or amber traffic light and a green traffic light, one above and below the other, and they're all able to be switched on or off, but not all at the same time. What happens with these is that the traffic lights are a set of symbols. The red light, when it is switched on, when it has a light behind it, means stop, and the amber light, when the light is switched on, means prepare to stop, and the green means carry right on, which in a lot of road codes they say proceed. So when the green light is on, you may proceed. Well, do these lights have a syntax? Yes, well, they do. First of all, they're in a linear order, one below the other, the red light at the top and the amber light in the middle and the green light below. So that's some kind of syntax. But the more important syntax is the lights show, in most countries, one at a time. So there's a sequence. You get the red light, followed by the green light, followed by the amber light, and then the whole thing starts all over again. So there is a linear sequence, not just in space, one light below the other, but there is a sequence in time, and that sequence is rule governed, the sequence in time, because all traffic lights are regulated by a particular box of electronics which tells them what order they're to go in, and it also tells them how long each one is to go on. Sometimes that's regulated from a central location, where if the traffic needs to travel faster in one direction, then the green light lasts longer and so forth. But there's clearly a syntax, one light only. In some countries the amber light sometimes comes on when the red light is on, to indicate that you should rev your engine pretty hard and take off at a fearsome rate. I'm not sure which countries those are, but I know it happens. So this sequence is rule governed. Wherever you happen to be, traffic lights operate in a set rule governed sequence. It's a very simple rule governed sequence. Nevertheless, it's indicative of the kind of codes that we have, and there are similarities with language. It's not totally the same, but there are similarities. And the way we can tell that this is the case is that when there's a breakdown, you certainly know that someone's broken the rules. So let's suppose one of the bulbs pops and you get red switches on, and then red switches off, but green doesn't switch on because the green bulb has popped. What do? Well, it's not as obvious as when all the lights are working. Any kind of breakdown shows that this system is stable. What if all of the lights start blinking at once? That's possible. Very confusing. And it's not part of the system. We know that that's a breakdown, and the normal rule-governed order of things has been disturbed. During student pranks in my city, at one stage someone put up a blue light. They just attached a blue light to a set of traffic lights, and the blue light went on and off from time to time. Well, everybody laughed and nobody knew what the blue light meant. and nobody knew what to do about it, so they ignored it. They just laughed. So there's a system. The system is closed. As you can see, you can't add another light to it. There are only 3 lights, that's it. And the system is entirely closed. No other lights are permitted. If we were to break it open and put a blue light in there permanently, we'd immediately have to adjust everything. The whole system would be replanned, there'd be a completely new syntax, and the blue light would have to mean something, and the something would have to be determined by comparison with the red and the green and the amber lights that were already in the system. Well, what that tells us is that in closed systems, meanings of one thing and another are interdependent, and they certainly are with traffic lights. The fact that the red light means what it means is dependent on the fact that the green light means what it means and the amber light means what it means. There's an interdependence of meanings in this closed system. And we know, for example, that there's more to it than that, and that is that the red and green lights have opposite meanings. What we'll find is that although traffic lights are incredibly simple in some ways, they do have things to tell us about human languages. Human languages have some of the same characteristics. They are also code-like. They also have symbols, and those symbols frequently are also contained in closed systems where everything is dependent on everything else, as an early linguist once said.